What's up, guys? We're here in Dreamhack Open at Bucharest, and it has been amazing so far. We're about to be going into Jaedong versus Snute. In control, we've already talked about Jaedong a lot here with you.
Yep.
You're thinking he's going to go all the way. Personally, I agree. The Muslim Artosis, what are you guys thinking?
I mean, you made a good point earlier. Snute is very good in ZVZ as well. He's the one that's been killing Hyun every single time, and Hyun is someone who has killed Jaedong before. So, I mean, Snute's ZVZ is something to be reckoned with for sure. Could be a close one.
Yeah, if you go by the logic of, well, he beat him, and he beat him, and I beat that guy, I must be better than that guy. But no, these guys are all on a very similar level. Jaedong is very well known for his ZVZ, but Snute equally as well known for just being an all-round solid player.
Yeah.
And handsome. They're both very handsome.
Guy,
handsome.
You know, with Snute, he's so solid, he's so talented, and we're running out of foreigners, guys. Yeah, I mean, this is the prophecy keeps coming true. The Koreans keep winning. They keep dominating. Is Snute, does he have a chance here at all? I mean, can he pull something off?
Yeah.
Is
Absolutely.
Via cheese, via just an unorthodox strat. It is a best of three, remember.
I am, on behalf of the emotions for Jaedong, I am very concerned with this matchup. It is I mean, you saw there in the stats, the only time they played in the last 3 months, Jaedong did win 2-0, but Snute is not just a one-trick pony. He's not just really aggressive and crafty that way. He's just, in all dimensions of ZVZ, very good. Specifically at ZVZ. He's actually good as a Zerg player in all 3 matchups, but in ZVZ, he really does worry me.
Yeah, and you know what else? He's also a thinker as far as Zergs go. He really understands the game on a very deep level, and that's how Jaedong actually has been killing these guys off so far. He's actually been outthinking everyone. He's always known exactly what to do and when to do it. But if Snute knows all that as well,
it'll be like fighting yourself.
He might actually be able to pull a rabbit out of his hat here. And by the way, our players are now ready to be interviewed before this match here in the round of 8. Smix, take it away.
Thank you very much, Tasteless. It's time to introduce the 2 players of our second quarterfinal series, Jaedong and Snute. Now, Snute, you have shown that you have amazing ZVZ. You defeated Hyun, and you defeated Hyun many times before. But you're about to play not just a normal ZVZ, you're about to play a JVZ. How are you feeling going up against Jaedong?
I think Jaedong is one of the best CVC players in the world, so it's going to be tough, but anything is possible.
All right. Now, Jaedong, when I talked to you earlier, you mentioned that you thought it would be Hyun coming up, but you were surprised to see that it was Snute and knew that you would have to focus and not lose your concentration. What do you have to say to Snute before this match?
아까 전에 얘기했을 때는 그 고석현 선수가 올라올 거를 예상했는데 스누트 선수가 올라오는 거 보고 방심하면 안 되겠다. 그래서 스누트 선수에게 한마디만 해주세요.
일단 그전 경기에서 MC가 지고 임팩트 선수가 올라왔기 때문에 올라가도 적으라서 그냥 지금 너무 행복해요.
Honestly, right now, all I'm thinking about is that in the last series, a Zerg player impact advanced. So I know that if I just win here, there's another Zerg player, so all I can think is I'm just so happy. Well, guys, shake hands. Casters, back to you guys.
All right, we are almost ready to start this match here. Let's talk about the maps that these guys are going to be playing on. Again, it's a best of 3. A lot of other tournaments occasionally do best of 5s. We know best of 3s are very unforgiving. You make one mistake like who? MC, screw up in game 1, you have one more shot. Or I guess I should say, no more room for mistakes. You have to win both games from there. So in this series here, going into this, it's going to be Overgrowth, Frost, and King Sejong Station. What do you guys think? Artosis, you go ahead.
Okay, Overgrowth, Frost, and King Sejong Station. These are, the thing that comes to mind is the first 2 maps, you're pretty far away from your opponent. These definitely could be macro maps. Of course, we have seen Jaedong mixing in some early pools, especially on big maps that kind of catch people off guard. So we could see that, but I feel like all these games are going to go kind of a bit longer, and I think that bodes well for Snute because I feel like Jaedong has such good Zergling control and he's just so decisive. You don't want to play him on one of the smaller maps as much as one of the bigger maps.
If I could jump in here, I believe it was you two who were casting the epic Jaedong game where it nearly went to a draw.
Artosis.
Was that Artosis? Excuse me. I just feel like even on a map that big, you know, Jaedong is just a serious threat. What do you think of control?
You know, I've been watching a lot of Jaedong, as a lot of us have up here, and he kind of has a swagger about him where you get that vibe of, oh my gosh, he's got a lot of momentum behind him, he's looking really good. He certainly does not have that in ZVP right now. His ZVT and his ZVZ, on the other hand, in particular ZVZ, looks really good. So to your point, big map, small map, like Artosis said, I honestly, the story for me is what does Snute do? Zanster got outclassed. It did not look good. Can Snute not only make this look closer, but even take some wins? I'm kind of worried because, like Artosis said, Snute is he's a thinker. He can do it. He can think on the same level as Jaedong and see into the future like Jaedong has in the past.
The Muslim, you've got a lot of pro gaming experience under your belt. If you're in Snute's position, you're on the stage, you're about to go up against Jaedong, and you know that not only is this the icon of ZVZ, but he's been warmed up throughout the entire tournament, crushing Zergs to get here. What are you thinking going into this, and how are you going to pull out a win?
Well, we have to remember that Snute is insanely good in ZVZ too, but one of the things that Snute really excels at is Baneling micro early on, and he's extremely aggressive. One thing I'd really like to avoid against Jaedong, given his raw mechanical ability, is that roach, inject kind of mid-game, and just maybe go straight for Swarm Host, because Snute is an insane thinker, and he's really, really good late game. These guys in Europe, Stefano and Snute, have been playing Swarm Host since the beginning.
Which means they put 3 games in, because it takes that long. Yeah.
This is true.
It's a terrible joke.
Guys, let's get hype. Let's make some noise. Game number 1 is now ready here with Snute against Jaedong. The map will be Overgrowth. And we will now introduce our players over here in the upper right, or in the bottom left, in fact, in the red, the legend from Brood War. Give it up for Jaedong.
And his opponents, hailing from Norway and Team Liquid, it is Liquid Snute.
You know, is Snute a word?
Good Lord.
I've never tried snooting before. Does it hurt? I don't know.
I hope it is a word. I can't imagine that's like, you know, even a young person would be like, that sounds like a cool name. Snute. I think it's actually like Snute or something like that.
Well, we got these two guys over here scouting out with their overlords early on.
Yes.
Again, Jaedong so warmed up here in ZVZ. I'm so interested in seeing.
So is Snute, though. He just took out Hyun, man.
This is true, but I mean, I think when you look at ZVZ, like iconic figures, I mean, Jaedong
of course.
Cannot be contested here. I'm wondering, in this moment where Snute has the opportunity to crush Jaedong, what is the strategy he uses? I'm sure that it's got to be the very best, the best. I don't think when you're this deep in the tournament, you start to store strategies for later on possible future opponents. I think you've got to take it one step at a time.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm looking, I mean, that question that you asked, I'm glad that you posed it more as like a hypothetical, rhetorical question, because I don't have an answer for you. We saw some cheats that I honestly, I mean, Artosis and I cast this last night. We really thought that was the end of Jaedong, the slow Ling push. It was something like 45, 50 Lings against 3 and a Queen. And we were like, this is over. But Jaedong dug deep and did exactly what he needed to do and then turned that game on its head and won 45 seconds later. But that's not it. I mean, the other ZVZs he's faced as well, it's not like these players fell on their face and just did not perform. They were playing very well, but they were being consistently outperformed by Jaedong. So I'm looking to Snute at this next tier to see, you know, Snute got here because he's a damn good player as well. Let's see if he can do something about that.
Looking at the build orders here, we see Jaedong's build was a bit greedier. He did get the hatchery and the gas long before he got the spawning pool, whereas Snute took a little bit more of a conservative route, getting that spawning pool up, more for safety here and to get that queen out than to get any lings out and do any kind of rush. And shortly here, both of their hatches will be finishing up.
Well, we have gasless versus gas for right now. Jaedong is the player that will be almost surely opting for speed here fairly soon. And that means that he's going to have something that TLO talked a lot about in the ZVZs he was casting. He's going to have map control, at least at face value here. And that means that he could potentially take the faster third. There's a lot more of a kind of a kill threat that if Snute wants to get out on the map and try to, you know, put his units out too far, there's a counterattack potential. That speed upgrade is a really big deal. Now, what does Snute do in reply to that? Snute should be the player that's making less lings, more queens, and looking to spread creep to kind of open up his mobility that way, and perhaps have a more kind of like staunch early game economy.
Yeah, and along with that, for Snute, probably focus a lot on just getting a nice tight wall-in, containable, controllable space, so that if it goes beyond just Jaedong having that map control, having that scouting ability, he at least doesn't have the ability to press a threat towards the natural, or perhaps, let's say, the ransom guard, the main as well.
And Overgrowth is pretty good for that. You can see this, the choke area at the natural does pinch in a little bit. Those Zerglings are not getting in. 3 queens, of course, shutting that down hard. And as far as Jaedong's intel is considered, that could mean that he's hiding its gasless, or it could mean that he's hiding anything behind that. It's a little bit strange that there's 3 queens there right off the bat. Again, at first glance, you would think this is a gasless opening, so that's why he has 3 queens. But what if that was, and as we can see here, it is all 3 of his queens. He might have been hiding a tech. So Jaedong's going to look for further answers.
We now have the second gas here being taken by Snute, not in the main, but actually at the expansion. This is, of course, if you get scouted, you want to have a little bit more ambiguity about how much you're actually teching up. And the Wallen is now going down here.
You called it.
The double evolution chamber here with the Baneling's Nest, and a triple evolution chamber here because he does feel the threat of these links now coming up to the entrance.
And this is really nice for Jaedong. Again, a good defense from Snute here. This is what he had to do. Jaedong's going to start to work at that wall. A 4th queen coming down, no Zerglings to speak of, but they are being made right now. And again, the surface area here is just not conducive to Jaedong cracking this. So he's going to try to do what he can, but honestly, after a couple of transfuses, maybe get a queen, but there's just not enough here to get it done. And if you look at that production tab behind this, Jaedong is droning. And that's what I was going to say. This has everything about it to screaming aggression, and of course it ends up being aggression, but he's not all in with this. Behind this, his 3rd does complete, and this is even before Snute has built a hatchery.
You really got to hand it to Snute there. I mean, you couldn't have had better defense. In fact, even losing that extractor in the middle, he had 3 making there, and he's now taking up here to make sure his roaches later on here are going to be much stronger, getting that range attack upgrade, and of course getting some defensive banelings. But there is a challenge here posed to Snute, which is that he doesn't have his own 3rd base just yet. Well, as I say that, he just now takes it.
Yeah.
But he is going to have to do something to deal with the hatchery that is now finished up over here at Jaedong's 3rd.
And that's what he's going to do. He's going to push out here, already making a couple of banelings behind this. Jaedong, of course, is just now finishing his own baneling nest, so he'll have availability there as well. And there are going to be defensive banelings being made here over at this 3rd, actually quite a few. My inclination is that they're going to end up walking across the map once this defense is complete, if it does get there. And Jaedong, seeing this here now with that production tab, again, if you look up there, more Zerglings coming out from Snute, though, so he's going to lean in on this.
Okay, the banelings now coming forward here to take a detonate.
Wow, good connection for Snute.
Cleaning up, a lot of Jaedong's banelings now, making this very difficult here for Jaedong to hold for the time being. He's using those links to back away from that one baneling, eager to engage, now backing out after doing the absolute maximum amount of damage here. There are more links here on the way as he's regrouping now. Snute may continue to be aggressive here.
And Snute's going to lean out here again. More links coming off that production line. His 3rd is significantly behind that of Jaedong's, but because of this aggression, Jaedong has only just now started to drone and even saturate that 3rd. That huge connection was nice, so that was 2 banelings hitting 6 plus some lings. So if there was a deficit there, which there was, Snute's closing the gap quite quickly.
Snute now pushing Jaedong back. Jaedong ran up there and peeked, and as you said in control, is now droning up. He's trying to actually use this hatchery at his 3rd base for more than just an additional location of production here. And we also see, with the Roach Warren coming up here and the armor upgrade gearing up, we're going to enter into a proper ZVZ mid-game.
We are, and Snute's advantage with it. Snute has, yes, the later 3rd, but he has the faster +1 range upgrade. He's going to finish up Carapace even ahead of Jaedong's as well, or at least at the same time. His Roach Warren's not doing much just yet, but his lair has complete ahead of time. And I guess because he's not doing any kind of speed upgrade there, you're not going to see any huge advantage. Again, it's kind of a Ling skirmish going on in the middle of the map. Both players kind of try to feel out where they're at respectively. And we got another baneling and some Zerglings here for Snute wandering into that 3rd.
Okay, some links now going into the main here to try to do as much damage as possible. There are roaches very close to hatching, but so many drones are being picked off here as Jaedong is not quite responding until just now here. The roaches are going to hatch out and drive this off. But so far, a very back and forth seesaw game here. They're continuing to upgrade up. We see the armor upgrade here for Jaedong a little bit in the lead.
Yeah, I mean, those Lings were traded for intel, which is great, but then they also picked off a few drones. They see the roaches being birthed from that main hatch, which means, okay, he is in the military phase, at least for now. He's making roaches, so it's not going to be a big drone pump, or potentially he needs to go home and defend as well. Both players feeling each other out really, really well. Jaedong with his Overseer approaching the third base, seeing if it too is being saturated. He sees that. Both these players, I just got to say, up until this point, it's been pretty equal. There's been kind of a seesaw between advantages, and they're playing so well.
Yeah, they're both playing so well. This is the period of the game where they might have to back off and start surveying each other.
Yeah.
Any serious attacks at this point in time that don't yield a lead are going to probably just result in a loss here. I mean, these guys got the war engines up and running. They are now going to start cranking out a serious army. And with the roaches being upgraded like this is where it really becomes a big positional game on how you engage.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's one of the beauties of ZVZ is there's so much tension going back and forth in different areas of the game. Larva usage, economy, how many drones a player has. If one guy has 85 and the other has 60, at first glance, you're like, okay, well, the 85 is so much better. But then if you look at the army count, a lot of times that's where it tells the story. The 60 drone guy can sometimes have a massive army, and that can be what wins him the game. It's just, there's so much tension between the two players in different areas. It's really fun to watch.
Now, if we can see in the middle of the map here, Jaedong does have overall superior positioning on what's going on the map. He's got a lot of overlords spread out here. And, yes, roaches with the speed upgrade are fast. They're not fast enough that you can't react if you see them coming. And he does see Snute headed southbound now. Jaedong going to try to get in a position here as Snute wants to put some pressure over here on the third base.
He's going to wing it over here. Now, Jaedong does have the faster resupply as it is attacking on his half the map, but he also has more roaches just to start off with. A Zergling counterattack to the third. It shouldn't get this queen, and they're just going to try to get some kind of damage, but they will be thwarted by Snute. And Snute is going to end up backing away. Again, the supply is so close. Both these players not even taking a fourth base. Everything almost seems like a mirror image of each other.
Now Jaedong pushing Snute back, trying to keep map dominance here. I don't believe he's going to push too far forward. The entrances to the expansions are wide and open, but when you get roach armies that are this big, I mean, this is where we have a line of roaches that is sometimes longer than the screen itself. So you really got to pick your battles wisely here. I would expect, both players to back off here. It's pretty tough to call.
Couple of interesting things. +2 range attack does finish for Snute, but also Baneling speed and 36 Zerglings coming out. He is going to do a Roach Baneling attack, looking for the AoE off the Banelings to do some damage here. And I'll tell you what, it's super volatile. I've seen it work really, really well, and I've seen it fall on its face.
In control, I like it, considering the position Snute's in. He's going to make all these Banelings and Roaches, and it's spotted. I was going to say, I don't blame him for doing it because this way you don't have to go into the supreme late game ZVZ. You might be able to get a killing blow right away. But with it spotted, let's see if Jaedong is able to engineer a response to this. I mean, he is the master of ZVZ. He should be able to do that.
He's going for Burrow and Tunneling Claws, but an Overseer will be with this army for Snute, so that's not in and of its own right kind of an answer. But some Banelings getting morphed in here. Jaedong go for the surround. This is a huge spot, actually. A lot of the Banelings stuck behind. Snute's going to make room for them to come forward. Jaedong splitting as best he can. He actually walks into the Banelings. The Banelings doing tremendous damage. Supplies are almost dead even. Jaedong getting a good concave here, where Snute's having a tough time. He's winning the left flank. But in the main fight, Jaedong turns for the hills.
Jaedong spread out a little bit too thin there. We do have some roaches not on screen over here to the left. They were coming up here to meet to try to get some kind of surround, but before they could get there, Snute already was doing too much damage to that right group of roaches. The roaches now retreating, trying to regroup now over here at the third as Snute tries to press forward.
It's going to be a roach sandwich. Jaedong has not finished his +2 range attack just yet. It's moments away from finishing, so this is Snute's strongest opportunity, but Jaedong with a fast rally in the better concave seems to have a surround. Zergling's coming in to try to help, but that's almost larva ineffectiveness. Jaedong seems to be taking a supreme advantage here as a supply. Well, actually, it's the same, but no, I made the mistake. I tried to call a roach battle. Damn it.
You look at the way that Jaedong is now swallowing up from the bottom. Snute being pushed back here. I can't say I'm surprised, considering how good Jaedong is at just powering up and defending. While this is happening, though, Snute's taking a gold base. That could be risky, but really, what else is he going to do? The gold base as the fourth base is almost always going to be the base you're going to take in this matchup here, especially with Jaedong taking his old gold base. Jaedong should be able to win this game as long as he can simply deny the fourth and mine some gold minerals for a few minutes.
We've got a really cool thing developing here. We got roaches approaching that fourth gold base, as you said, but we had burrowed roaches making their way to the third. They're going to do some damage here, targeting down the drones, and the fourth gets canceled as well. Taste, to go back to something you said, I mean, the fourth base, there's a lot of risk with it, but Jaedong's applied that pressure. He basically says, hey, I have my own gold base. If you just take a vanilla normal fourth gold base, or excuse me, base, you'll just be behind. So Snute's got to try to equalize.
Jaedong is playing this out very well. Right now, the sand is running out of the hourglass here for Snute. He's got to catch up economically, and Jaedong is doing a terrific job of keeping him busy. Yes, Snute chasing away this army in the south, but meanwhile, over here in the second and the main, roaches are unburrowing and doing massive econ damage.
Huge Jaws theme music. The queen goes down, but it does get off the inject again. Snute playing very, very well. Behind the natural, we have roaches there, and a big fight in the middle of the map as well. Jaedong trying to capitalize on this advantage. Both players, again, fairly equal in supply, but Snute's just going to shove forward. He's taking so much damage in the backfield. He's going to try to go for broke. And Jaedong splitting up his forces actually a little bit indecisive here as a bunch just chasing 3 or 4. But it seems like in the piecemeal fight, Snute's taking advantage here.
Now, if Snute could push down a little bit further and maybe take out the gold, perhaps the game could balance out. The question is, did Jaedong spread out his armies too much? Snute's economy back at home is not exactly going swimmingly. The gold base goes down. Jaedong coming up here from the side, but so many roaches here from Snute. Did Jaedong make a miscalculation?
I don't think so. He should be able to resupply. And again, these roaches are almost they're on a one-way trip for the most part. They're getting surrounded here, and Jaedong, again, the supply is so equal. He's even adding some drones to the mix here. It's going to be close, but that backfield damages so much. Just now the roaches at the natural are being cleaned up, but it's not before they've shut down basically all mining and production inside the main natural.
Yeah, the roach numbers are still staying very even. Drone count, by the way, also pretty even. 50 here to 45 with Jaedong in the deficit. Jaedong does manage to fight back and push away Snute's roaches, and it looks like for the time being, this game's going to normalize.
What a wild game, to be honest with you. The harassment in the back of the field looked like it's like game-ending damage, but Snute with a great army control pushes and takes out the fourth, and then trades effectively his roaches. I will say Jaedong made some questionable choices with his army. He had a huge chunk of it not getting into the big fight and instead chasing 1, 2, or even, like, I think it was like 4 roaches away from the fight. That kind of ineffectiveness gave Snute the window of opportunity to trade effectively there.
You know, the question I'm asking myself in control is who's going to try to take the fourth now? Because in an exchange like that, it can be a little bit tricky to figure out who really got the lead there with the number of drones that were killed. There were battles that both players couldn't even be hovering over at the same time because there were so many engagements occurring at once. So this is going to be all down to instinct now, how they play this out from here. This has been anything but a clean textbook ZVZ.
It's been a hell of a battle. Both players making such great choices back and forth, and as we are rewarded with this, the supplies are fairly similar. Where Jaedong does have the advantage in supply, he's lacking in tech. We see infestors coming out already for Snute. He has 4 here with the army. Jaedong, of course, again, scouting with that overseer that's been seeing everything. So the question is, can those infestors overcome the supply differential? Jaedong and Snute locked equally in upgrades. It's 2-2 apiece. Jaedong's going to have more roaches, but the AoE of those infestors.
Yeah, you got to factor that in, and that also makes engaging very tricky here. We do see Snute entering into a defensive posture here. Notice how he's spaced out carefully. The spine crawlers here to really make sure Jaedong should think twice before engaging here. And we have brood roaches now. They're spotted.
Oh, they're spotted. Overseer just at the fringe of his vision. It's going to hold him in place. Jaedong's going to lurch forward to try to engage here, but he's being held back by those fungals. He's wasting, again, more roaches attacking just a few, and Snute with the far and away better concave right now, and the infestors behind adding so much AoE. Jaedong is just now getting with a surround, but the supply, it's in favor of Snute. He's winning this fight.
Snute might even win this game. You know, with those fungals there, it was a pretty big challenge there for Jaedong to engage. That's why he sent these 4 roaches up here towards the main to try to get these roaches to chase back. Very effective, but did Jaedong suffer too many losses back there?
One of the things to look at here, Tasteless, is that the infestors of Snute did not die. He kept them safely back. They landed the fungals they needed to hold back the otherwise very threatening roaches. And as such, they're energy-based. They're going to gain back those fungals. The units of Snute are going to heal. And this supply advantage is 30. And at this point in time, they're starting to mine out their bases. We're not seeing giant banks getting expelled here.
Well, you know, I like that he got the defense with the sunken colonies. Or spine crawlers, rather. But I also like how now, after he won that battle, he rushes down here, tries to take that base, and we get a really good glimpse right now into the psychology of Jaedong here, with him taking the base at the bottom right of the map there. The mineral only, not as easy to get to. It's about as far away, well, it actually is as far away as it could possibly be from his opponent. But at the same time, Jaedong has to do something with a move like this in the next few minutes to punish Snute for taking the gold, or guys, it's going to be a bit of an upset, but Snute will win this game.
Well, I really like Snute to win this. He's got a 50 supply advantage. He's sitting on these infestors. He's adding Hydralisk, and right now Jaedong has switched his tech as well to Hydras, but he's adding them later, and he does not have infestors to go behind as well. Snute has every advantage possible, even if you look at the bases, like you pointed out. Jaedong's expanding away, because that mentality, as you said, is very correct. But also, it's going to be a normal base versus a gold base, and in a mirror matchup, that's a huge deal.
Yeah, it's tremendous, and that's exactly why we saw so many drones transferred just there. Now, if I'm Snute, what I'm thinking is, keep a good survey on the map, check my opponent's movements, big and small, because we know a lot of times the ZVZ is won with a small Roach army out-positioning a larger Roach army, and then the other attack there wins the game. And all he has to do from there is just keep the gold base, and he's in great shape.
He's going to go ahead and defend that with those spine crawlers like you talked about. He instantly saturates it. He's closing on max. I mean, if there was ever a chance for Jaedong, it would be that he gets this larger Hydralisk number, but he needs time. He does not have the money for it, and Snute is not going to give him that time. He has the fourth base behind this. He has it defended, as you pointed out. And really, once you max like this, sure, a little bit of a bank does help, but you don't want to give too much time because there's not much more going for Snute right now. He doesn't have a 3-3 upgrade completing or anything like that. He has finished everything he wants to do. He's going to transfer a few drones here and there, but then it's going to be push time, and I do not know how Jaedong holds off this army coming.
Yeah, I really have to ask myself here if the gates of victory are now closing, and Jaedong is going to be with a loss here in game one. I mean, there's just no answer. The supplies here tell it all. We've seen Snute maxed out for a while now, and of course the gold base is the icing on the cake with that. Meanwhile, Jaedong at 177. This is going to be very tricky. Now, Snute has two ways of going about this. Snute can simply wait for Jaedong to come up with a solution and try to deflect it, which we'd probably say is a safer route, or Snute could try to end it now, hoping that Jaedong does not get back into a lead later on, since Jaedong is such a crappy player. And it looks like the answer is he's going to go for a kill move now.
The fungal hits 4 Hydras that could have been a lot worse, to be honest with you. In fact, they're going to get an Infestor or 2 for their trouble. They get 2 Infestors. That's actually quite nice for Jaedong. The supplies have actually closed. Their both players are just about max. Jaedong, of course, heavier in the Hydras. Non-existent are the Infestors. And he actually has a few less Roaches. So it's going to come down to control. And honestly, Snute, if he can offload these Infestors cost effectively and get a good concave, we're going to have that fight right now. He could win this game right now.
The fungals are being thrown down now. The engagement started here. Snute with Infested Terrans coming out, and more fungals as well is pushing forward. Jaedong still counterattacking. Now into the main, probably taking out Tech up there. But Snute is continuing to close in.
He crushes through Tasteless. The counterattack be damned. Snute is in monster mode, and he takes the first game.
Unbelievable.
Gods can bleed.
Yes, they can.
They can bleed.
And apparently some can even die. We might be seeing that here by the end of this best of 3. Snute looking absolutely fantastic in that last game. The Muslim, Artosis, you saw what we saw. What are you guys thinking?
Snute smells weakness. He's playing pretty damn well, if you ask me. Awesome, awesome moves. I can't even... It was so good how he played that with the Infestors and the Spines later on when it went into the low econ game. That's something he's used against Hyun a lot in the past. He's just looking fantastic.
One thing I'd like to point out, too, is the early game with the Queens blocking against all those Zerglings, making the wall. They're making the wall behind that to funnel them in. Really smart. And then those Banelings, like that won him the fight there. And each Baneling is 50 minerals, 25 gas, so he really needed to make that work. And it got him a bit of an edge, and then he just kept on throwing units at Jaedong and got a bit of a lead that way.
Well, that was a big mistake. Jaedong scouts that out super early, and in that situation, when Banelings don't have the element of surprise, in that situation, gosh, it's really tough to make them work. But Jaedong misclicked and actually shoved everything forward. And he ended up, I think, still winning that fight, but it should have been like a decisive victory, and instead it was more of a trade, actually.
You know, Jaedong's so good at harassing and being everywhere at once, but it was interesting to see this miscalculation where he is doing a lot of damage to Snute, and Snute's got to pull out now and attack with something to draw the attention back to Jaedong, and then to see that moment where, wait a minute, Jaedong has miscalculated the situation, and now this giant counterattack, blowing down to the south is going to do too much damage and suddenly equalize out the game.
Yeah.
This is kind of crazy because Snute already won a tournament this year. After a whole year of foreigners having such a hard time, or as you call them, Europeans. They had a very hard time last year.
We call North Americans casters.
Yes, that's it. But seriously, he won Seat Story Cup over Hyun. In fact, you were telling me he was in your group with Hyun. He beat Hyun twice there, beat Hyun here. Here he is beating Jaedong, who's supposed to be the best ZVZ, basically, in the world, statistically speaking, at least. Snute actually could go the whole way in this tournament, possibly.
Well, we're going to find out very soon here as game number 2 is ready. Let's get hyped, guys. It's loaded up. Our map is going to be Frost. If you're just now joining us, Jaedong is, in fact, down 1 game. And it's only a best of 3, so this could end very sadly in a huge upset here for Jaedong.
He is 1 game away.
Introducing our players over here in the bottom left, the legend from Brood War. Give it up for Jaedong.
And his opponent from Team Liquid, it is Liquid Snute. And I'll give credit where credit's due. Snute outplayed Jaedong that game number 1. I'll tell you, it's not like, again, I think it's so cool. The story of Dreamhack Bucharest this year has so far been foreigners really, really doing work. It's not like he capitalized. I mean, yes, we talked about mistakes, but honestly, that's a part of the game. It's not like that's why Jaedong lost necessarily. Snute played wonderfully and outplayed him.
Yeah, really adroit handling there by Snute. And I'm curious as to what exactly Jaedong's feeling from here on out. We're on the map Frost. This is a big 4-player map. We do have Jaedong going for a pool on 10 here.
With gas.
Yes, and so this is him shifting gears a little bit.
Yeah.
Sometimes you want to have maps with less starting locations or closer positions to go for aggression, but it's funny how it works occasionally on the bigger maps or the ones where you think, God, it's such a big map.
Yeah.
Go for it. Go for the money. Get an expansion up and win later on. Sometimes these strats can work. We know Jaedong very good at preparing for a best of 3 here. I think this is the good move. In Control, what are your thoughts?
I'm going to just ride in on your coattails of wisdom and say this is a good move because Snute right now is getting caught being a Scrooge McDuck. 3 drones post-hatch first. We have Zerglings coming out and damn well an upgrade here in a second. I think it should be speed. Yep, actually Jaedong's going to hold back on the Lings. Not only that, but Snute and Jaedong both mis-scouted, quote-unquote. It's a 4-player map, so of course, you've got 2 choices. One's going to be correct.
They took a gamble. It didn't pay off.
Jaedong's going to benefit from that. Snute would be the guy who would like to pull in and see, oh my gosh, you don't have a hatchery. I need to prepare right now. But he won't have that intel. And instead, we've got a mass of speedlings happening here.
And he is going to wait until the exact right moment to send these Lings out when they can get there as quickly as humanly possible while still surprising his opponent so he's not able to prepare. We have that 1 Ling over at the watchtower looking to see if we're going to have a drone or anything else scouting come that way. Another Ling over here going to the upper right. He is about to be able to confirm through the process of elimination that his opponent is now in the bottom right, and that will trigger the rush.
And Snute is even making more drones after that. A lot of times a Zerg player will make at least 2 or 4 Zerglings to get them out in the map and to find out what's going on, but Snute is riding this feel-good train. He's taking the risk. This is a bit of a gambit, and unfortunately, at least at first glance right now, everything seems to be kind of working against him. This Overlord does not even see the Zerglings leaving. The Queen's going to corral it out. These Speedlings are coming over here, and it's going to be 2 Zerglings and maybe 3 Queens. No, 2 Queens, excuse me. These are the first 2 Queens.
Metabolic boost, 10 seconds away from finishing. He's staying just outside the Overlord's vision, now moving in. And there's not going to be a lot Snute can do. The Queen scrambling to the ramp. The Lings coming up now, but they do not manage to break the ramp.
A couple of Zerglings holding for a second there, but the second Queen is just not going to get there to block the hole. He desperately needed that. A pretty good angle, but the first Queen does die, and Jaedong has busted in. Hello, here he comes into the mineral line. No Zerglings out just yet. Queen in a great position. Snute's got to try to hold. This is to win against Jaedong or potentially go to game number 3.
He's doing some great hold position micro to keep those drones busy. The Queen does go down, as does the economy, and most likely the game here for Snute, as it will soon be 1-1. No way to recover from this, really.
No, he's lost too many drones. He's got a lot of Zerglings coming out, but with the speed upgrade and the rallying of Zerglings across the map, Jaedong has done it. There it is, GG.
GG.
Woo! My heart. It takes balls to cheese when you're down 0-1 in a best of 3. I mean, and Snute Think about this too. He went hatch first. He scouts wrong. He made 3 drones after the hatch. When the hatch completes and the spawning pool completes, 4 more drones. He was so greedy. And if he doesn't play so greedy, Jaedong could have just gotten stomped right there. It could happen.
I really like what we saw back there. It was so greedy, but also the way he executed the rush was so patient.
Yes, good point.
He kept Lings right outside that base until he absolutely had to show when it was pretty much a guaranteed win. We've seen a lot of other games where Zergs open with aggression, but they send their Lings in a beeline as they hatch and get there, but not Jaedong. He says, if I'm doing this right, and I can surprise him, and he's going for a build that's not going to be good against this, I win, I get my next chance, and that's where we are here at game number 3.
That was the ultimate surprise, no doubt about that. DeMuzzle and I were sitting there watching and like, oh my God, he still hasn't seen those Lings. This is going to be crazy. And they just pop up the ramp, and the thing is, Snute can't possibly block that ramp quick enough. Zerglings don't build quick enough to stop that. Just the fact that he was greedy at all means that he loses that game.
And the Queen coming off creep as well. It was just too, like, he probably reacted as fast as he could upon seeing that. But what a great way to get yourself back into a series. I mean, lost the first macro game because he made a bit of a mistake running into the Banelings. And then this way, just being like, bam, 5 minutes, 1-1, we're tied again.
And we're all reset. It's a best of 3. It comes down to this one game and 2 great storylines. Jaedong still looking to be that champion that Taste was talking about earlier. He needs to make that story for himself. He's won a tournament this year, but Dreamhack is where you do it. Snute, on the other hand, he's a foreigner who's already won a tournament this year. Can he make it another one?
Oh, that would be really cool.
Well, if he can beat Jaedong, then the answer is yes, he
anything's
can make
possible
that another one.
Yeah.
Well, you know, with this, the results going the way they are, I got to say that game number 1, and I think we can all agree, is considerably more impressive as a win than game number 2 is from Jaedong. Jaedong executed game number 2 very well. Give him credit where credit's due.
It took a lot of bravery to play like that, but
Certainly.
definitely game number 1 showcased more skill overall.
Well, the question I want to ask you guys is, do you think he's going to pull off game number 3? Because I'm really starting to lean towards Snute after seeing how game number 1 went. Game number 2 could have ended like that for anybody. You just didn't see the Lings. You picked a build. Jaedong made a gamble and executed it very well, and it ended. What do you think, Artosis?
I don't know. The third map is King Sejong Station, right?
The map, yes, is King Sejong Station, yes.
I don't know. I feel like one of them is going to mind game the other here. That's what I think it's going to actually come down to in the third game, because that second game, obviously a huge mind game. First game just kind of straight up, but whoever gets the high end of the build orders plus the mind game on the third map, I feel like that's where it's going. I can't predict who that's going to be.
One thing I know about Snute is he doesn't often cheese, and when Jaedong throws at you, hey, I can play a really solid macro game, which he did in game 1, yes, he did lose it, but then he throws out a cheese as well. What's Snute going into the third game expecting now? I mean, Jaedong
more
can
to
do
think
anything.
about.
Well, yes.
Yeah.
Well, it looks like game number 3 is ready. Guys, let's make some noise. We're going to King Sejong Station. It is 1-1 Snute against Jaedong. The loser is out of this tournament. The winner is that much closer to becoming the champion of Dreamhack Open Bucharest. Introducing our players over here in the upper left, we have the legend from Brood War. Give it up for Jaedong.
And Dreamhack, we like our underdogs. Big story here. Give a loud cheer for Team Liquid Snute. He's got what it takes, Tasteless. Game number 1 proved that. He outplayed Jaedong. Game number 2, of course, a little bit of a build order win, getting caught being very greedy against Jaedong. But he's got what it takes. He could do it here.
This is a one-on-one map here for these guys. You're very far apart. We could have a pretty epic late game if it does go into a game like that. We've seen that Snute is more than competent amongst, you know, some of the oldest, most legendary players like Jaedong here today. I think this definitely could be a game Snute takes.
Absolutely. I mean, like I said, even in the short term, we saw it. If it was like a build order win game number 1, this series would kind of suck, and we'd be like, well, maybe, maybe not. But no, in convincing fashion, he's jousted with Jaedong and done just fine for himself. We see a pool first here from the blue Zerg, Snute, playing it safe, and Jaedong taking advantage of that kind of mental beating he gave him in game number 2. Again, something DeMuzzle brought up, which is a really good point when talking about a series, especially on a big stage like this, what does that cheese do? And Snute comes out playing very conservative in game number 3. Jaedong, right back to those kind of risky plays.
And it's also important to highlight here, although we do have one guy going for a pull and one guy going for a hatch, neither move here is really dramatic and impactful.
Not super dramatic,
early
no.
on, right? They can both still end up at roughly the same spot while still going or getting there, you can say, in different directions.
Absolutely. Hatch first versus pool is very small in terms of the differences, but if you polled all the Zerg players, they'd be like, oh no, I'd like to go 9 hatches before pool if I could. You know, they would prefer to pump it all out. But as we can see, the gas is being added for Snute behind this. And then on the flip side from our red Zerg, no gas just yet. So, what? Okay, no, those just finished. Never mind.
Yeah, so no gas just yet. Now with the pool finishing pretty soon here for Jaedong, he is going to need to get those queens out and start driving out the overlords. But let's think about our first game that we casted here between these two guys. One thing Jaedong was doing well, even though he did manage to win the game with it, was that he had a beautiful overlord spread on the map.
Yeah.
Snute did not come with a lot of surprises. It's more like Jaedong came with a lot of miscalculations there that allowed that big attack to come destroy him. I'm interested in seeing if we're going to have a similar situation here in game number 3 now, but with Jaedong making a few calculated adjustments into his play, because Snute did not have a lot of overlord presence on the map.
No.
I mean, there were a lot of ways that Jaedong was he very easily surprised Snute.
Well, Tasteless, you're talking about a really key element that is a big part of Jaedong's success or failure, and in that game number 1, you're right. It was overlord spread, but also he had an overseer just perusing at will all game long, and in particular the first 15 minutes. And that led him to saying, okay, you're going roaches now, you've got banelings now. He was ahead of the curve in all those respects. And it got him to a point where, I don't know about you, but I felt like Jaedong was very close to a very sure win. But Snute was able to engage a lot better. The mistakes happened. We talked about that. But Jaedong, you're right. He's very good at getting that intel, and as we can see here, does it once again with just 2 lanes.
It was funny to see that happen in that first game as well, because normally we see one-sided overlord presence on the map when you have mutas out, and that's when they clear everything out. But in that last game, that was an interesting occurrence. Now we have our players teching up and droning up. We have 2 extractors here for Jaedong. And now we have just still 2 here for Snute, but taken in different locations. I don't think we're going to have any heavy engagements for a little bit. They're both playing pretty passively.
Yeah. A lot of times players will get out like, 20-ish speedlings around this time to try and either defend their third base attempt or even harass their opponents. Snute opting for the very fast lair, and conversely, we don't see a lair, I believe, from Jaedong. If you can check. No lair from him, which is really weird because a lot of times when players do that, they have a fast third. So there's a chance that he's doing a Ling Roach timing attack here on this medium-sized map, which would be cool. Conversely, I wonder if Snute's going to opt for... No, he's not going for Spire either. Interesting.
Well, with the third base being taken here from Snute, let's really watch and see what the next few moves Jaedong makes are. He's got 8 Lings now making. Let's see if he adds much more to this, or if he pulls up Larva here for those roaches. You can always do some of these roach timing attacks here, where you get a good number of roaches, then follow that up with Lings being made behind that, because the Lings are so fast, they can catch up and meet up with the roaches. One of the funny situations where Lings are really tanking the damage and the roaches are dealing them.
Yeah. I'll have to see how that develops. He's actually going to work on the rocks in the backfield. That's interesting. I'm not sure if that's to then expand there, or if he wants to potentially take advantage of maybe a lack of an overlord. Or there's something you talked about earlier where Snute didn't see that. He could sneak out. There is actually no vision back there.
The fact that he ran back when that overlord came over there, I think you're right. I think he might be trying to come out here and surprise his opponent.
This is a lot of Lings, by the way. And a lot of Lings.
And this is actually, this could really mess Snute up here. Normally, guys, when we see one guy on 2 base and the other guy on 3, it's the guy on the 3 bases that's trying to get more circulation between his bases. But in this case, it's actually being used. He's tearing down the rocks for a sneak attack now, and I don't know if Snute's going to be ready. The Lings are splitting. The question is, can Snute hang on and live to this attack with enough drones and defense?
Great angle on the ramp. That's the beginning of it. He denies entry into the main, but also much so and more importantly, does not give the Lings surface area. And Jaedong is going to the natural to try to do what damage he can. The attack at the third has been repelled. No entry into the main. And Jaedong, so far, is not getting it done. I feel like Snute takes a big win here.
And keep in mind, Jaedong tore down that entrance in the back of his base now. That's completely exposed. There could be multi-pronged attacks here. that could go very effectively from Snute.
Snute with a huge army supply lead there. Thank you, Funka. And now, basically, if Jaedong can buy time with lane counters, he should be okay. But man, what if? Snute has not only a larger army supply, but a significantly more powerful army. These roaches are very good, whereas Zerglings are really not meant to be fighting those roaches. They need to be harassing or doing something else. And Jaedong is on the back foot. He's in trouble.
I think if he hadn't gotten those roaches to the ramp, this game could look very different.
Yeah.
But there were not enough drones executed in those multi-pronged attacks there for that to really pay off. Jaedong now has to play defensive. He may want to lean on counterattacks. We see that small group of lings down there at the bottom center, probably going to be used to attack when he sees roaches moving out, like we're seeing right now. But Snute barely now, either towards the second or the third here. Jaedong counterattacking, but already some roaches there with the drones to defend. The roaches coming up now and going towards the third.
Snute has a huge army lead. Jaedong is going to try to rely on angles to defend. He's actually pushing forward very brazenly, and that counterattack does get, well, for the most part, cleaned up. Some extra damage being done there. Snute is going to disengage and back up. The supplies, the gap's kind of closing here. He's giving Jaedong more time. It's interesting. Jaedong seems to be okay, I guess, despite being down 20 army supply.
Yeah, Snute evaluated that and said, nope, better safe than sorry right now. And is regrouping over here in the middle of the map. Jaedong, again, still trying to just do a little bit of catch-up. There's a minor lead here by Snute, but it's not particularly consequential because the travel distance across the map, let's say Snute attacks, I mean, then by then it should be evened out once Jaedong's units hatch.
I'll tell you, my heart's beating a million miles per hour because it looked scary for a second there. Snute did, I mean, he was going for the throat, but he ends up
I thought he was going to go
disengaging.
for it, actually. I think he might have actually been able to take that out.
And really great play by him, by the way, because while he was going for it, he had the peace of mind to leave behind 2 to 3 roaches at that third, which made that lane counter, sure, harmful, but not what it could have been. Snute, truly one of the marks of a really cool player that's kind of developing is someone that can make choices like that on a stage facing a player like Jaedong. Snute's playing great.
Yeah, he's playing very well.
And there's those peeping Tom overseers, by the way, that Jaedong, all series long, been doing a very good job of this.
Yeah, he's had a magnificent scouting. The question now is, what does Snute do next? I feel like the way we've seen Snute playing from game number 1, he saw a lot of windows of opportunity to end the game, but he was not somebody who was interested in playing the safer defensive mode and waiting for his opponent, let's say after Snute gets a lead, to make a mistake. And right now, it doesn't seem like they're going to be able to hurt each other as easily. But as I say that now, Jaedong's opted to be the aggressor. Can Snute get in the good position? Roach v. Roach in this phase of the game. By the way, +1 about to finish up here, so they're going to be even. +1 for Jaedong. Roach v. Roach can be a lot about just the positioning.
And Jaedong's the one that's sticking to roaches, and that ended up being part of his undoing in game number 1. Snute already getting that passaging gland upgrade. We can see some infestors starting to come out. 5 queued up right now. Infestors by themselves aren't necessarily spelling certain doom for Jaedong, but that's the beginning of it. Jaedong, again, kind of one-dimensional about this. He needs to engage pretty soon while this advantage is still his. There we go. There's the big concave. He's going to do it now.
Very confident attack from Jaedong as he shoves in and continues to move forward now as additional roaches pile on. The rallies have been set here. More and more roaches coming down, but a nice fungal there at the heart of that roach army.
And Jaedong trying to get the concave. He's separating his units just a little bit. It's going to be really close again. Keep in mind, Snute can reinforce better, but those infestors represent no DPS whatsoever. A lot of those roaches of Jaedong are very, very ready. He's going to back up, and it looks like Snute has repelled Jaedong for now.
Jaedong now trying to recuperate here, taking more gases, and just trying to go back to teching up. The attack has failed. By the way, armor about to finish here for Snute. At this point in time, Jaedong needs to turn around. He cannot do more damage here.
And once again, we're in that same situation from game number 1, where Jaedong's just piling out the roaches kind of on a one-track mind, and Snute already has the infestors. And again, something we've seen in ZVZ is players will make infestors, and due to the stress of the battle, they'll wander to the front and die very easily. But Snute doing such a good job of keeping them alive, they are going to be a big part of his mid-game.
All right, the roaches now coming down here. The angle not bad for Jaedong, but Snute with confidence shoves in to making an escape more difficult. And that armor upgrade, by the way, is done for Snute. Infestors getting into position as well here. Jaedong still trying to press forward with the attack as he regroups.
He's getting pushed back. The reinforcement is just too much. Snute taking a 20 supply advantage. He has the tech advantage. Jaedong is not building any tech structures behind this. He's just, again, piling out more roaches, and it hasn't worked. Snute is not allowing for counterattacks. He is not allowing for his economy to get chipped away, and he's maintaining this advantage and now adding a Hydralisk Den as well. It's not looking good for Jaedong.
I am really worried for Jaedong right now. He's got this 4th base up at the center left location, but Jaedong has hemorrhaged a lot of units trying to be aggressive over here on Snute. If Snute gets into a good position and has that proper intel to watch for counterattacks so he can preempt that, I could easily see Snute pushing out, crushing that 4th base, not stopping, going all the way through the 2nd and then into the main, ultimately winning a game, leaving us with what would be a huge upset of Jaedong being knocked out in the round of 8.
And a well-deserved one. Jaedong kind of snuck a win in game number 2, pulling out a build order win, but at game number 1 and so far in game number 3, Snute is out playing Jaedong in a long game of ZVZ. If you look at that production tab, we see, again, Hydralisks coming out, Spinecrawlers as well. Very defensive posture from Snute. It seems to be the correct answer. Jaedong is locked into this kind of, again, one-track mind in the sense that he's just making roaches and he's just attacking. There doesn't seem to be much in the way of a contingency plan outside of that 4th base. That's really all he has going for him.
I'm wondering if he's banking on Snute just being a little bit too well-rounded, teching too cleanly, getting a few extra drones, whereas this kind of lopsided tech tree that we got here from Jaedong might be able to allow him to then transition later on into a more proper endgame Zerg army.
I have to agree with you. I feel like basically Jaedong was hoping after all these attacks that Snute would get caught moving out into the middle of the map, getting his infestors exposed and getting surrounded by, again, Jaedong that's just piling out the roaches, but it just never happened. Snute would take an advantage, defend the fight, and then sit back and say, I'm going to build on this by achieving, again, equal economy, same upgrades, but better tech, Hydras and Infestors.
A very nice spread here from Snute. Jaedong itching to do some damage here. Now, a lot of this may be simply he wants to attack if Snute leaves. And that's why he's going to try to tear open this location over by the 2nd.
And this is a nice move. So far, Snute doesn't see it. He would have to actually very specifically look over there because none of the roaches are being spotted by vision. They might be now. Yeah, one of them is giving away the whole group. That son of a bee, that traitor over there. But it's too late. The rocks are down, and Snute's moving out to the middle of the map. This counterattack, again, it needs to do a lot of damage because Jaedong is disadvantaged in terms of the army back at home.
Jaedong counterattacking now towards the south center here, trying to hit the 3rd. There are spine crawlers there, but at the same time, the army for Snute is going up towards, in between the 2nd and the 3rd. Jaedong,
he gets the infestors in the middle of the map.
Fungals.
Huge fungals go down, but that'll be null and void when they heal as they go away. Jaedong's going for the base trade.
Jaedong is going for it. The drones are being massacred, and it's hard to call this one at this point in time. They are both completely getting annihilated back at home. It's going to be, at this point in time, I think a race to who has constructions left over.
It's going to get weird, but Tasteless, I like what Jaedong's doing over this 4th base. He's making a sea of Spinecrawlers, and Spinecrawlers are actually quite good against Roach and Hydra. The natural is dead. Snute is fighting as best he can. The Spinecrawlers have been found, though. Does Snute make a beeline for it? It's actually getting popped out here in the main as well. Spinecrawlers for Snute as well. And it looks like Snute says, okay, I know what you're doing. I need to get over there and clean it up right now.
He needs to take this out fast. Moving in now, throwing down Infested Terrans. It is all going to come down to this one moment. It looks like Jaedong now headed back here to try to meet up with his Spinecrawlers. It's not clear if Snute's going to have enough. As you can see, Spinecrawlers keep finishing just barely before the other ones are killed off.
This is interesting because there's Hydras in there, and actually they have really good range. So Jaedong's going to try to get in on this. He moves in. Supply-wise, Snute still has the huge advantage, but Jaedong seems to be winning this fight for right now. It's too close to call. There's a lot of red. There's a lot of blue. The Infestor will be cleaned up, and it looks like it's going to be close.
Jaedong is still doing so much damage here, but he has cleaned up Snute's army that was attacking that expansion.
Oh, my God.
Burrowing to regen. And I don't know if there's much left that Snute can do at this point in time. We have 10 more roaches, by the way, about to pop out. There they are coming now.
Snute is long distance mining at his natural. He's got Hydras. He's actually moving out on the map. He needs to be super careful. Hydras by themselves will lose to a close to equal number of roaches. And it's Jaedong that's actually still producing. Snute's moving forward with Spinecrawlers. He's going to be aggressive with Spinecrawlers. This is
madness.
He's
coming out now. Now, I think all Jaedong's going to have to do is intercept these Spinecrawlers on their way over here.
Snute thinks twice about this. I think that's the right call. It's cool to be cute, but my God, man, you're in an amazing game with Jaedong right now.
He's really screwed up the meta on the ladder after this, man. Okay, so he's going back now, getting the Spinecrawlers over here to defend, but you got to look at what Jaedong managed to salvage here. This fresh base in the center left. This is going to yield a serious profit in the long run.
Jaedong has him pinned. Tasteless.
Yes.
Basically, Snute has to hang back. Yes, that's a lot of spine crawlers, and he could defend, but you can't be aggressive with Hydras out on the map.
Yeah.
So how early does Jaedong recognize this? Because if he does, he actually still has 2 bases to potentially mine from, not including the Shamble at his main. But he could just put drones out there and have a huge economy. He's got a big supply lead as it is right now.
It seems like all Jaedong needs to do is wait at the 2 expansions outside of Snute's base.
Yeah.
Snute can't leave because, as you said very wisely, the Hydras are not going to get anywhere.
They can't
on the
do
map.
it.
They can't do it.
I mean, look at those spine crawlers too. You know what? That's actually, Snute might have betrayed himself. By making that many spine crawlers, Jaedong is forced to realize he can't just make roaches right now. He's like, oh, I guess I have to, at minute, what is it, 30 some odd, I got to make something else.
You can see he's inching out with the Hydras, but all he has to do, Jaedong is, back away when he sees the Hydras and then move back in to make sure there's no more creep there so the Hydras can move around on it.
He says, yeah, please do. Come outside, please.
Yeah, come at me, bro.
Is it a big come at me, bro?
It's a big come at me, bro.
We do see the infestation pit for Jaedong, and that means he is going to start making his own infestors, which again, I like this because this shows Jaedong is starting to think to the longer game from this perspective. If it was something like, well, I need to, I don't know, crack those spine crawlers, it gets dangerous. But for him, he is now the advantage player. He should not be thinking about busting Snute. He should be thinking about containing him and building on his advantage.
This is becoming pretty dire right now here for Snute. It's very clear that with this mobility, and especially with Jaedong's experience, I don't know if there's really anything Snute can do.
It's tough.
You can't really blame Jaedong for being somewhat passive right now. This is not his problem. This is Snute's problem. Yeah. Snute is running out of time, and if he doesn't get an answer in the next few minutes here, he's going to be underwater, buddy.
He's moving out, but it's a little bit late. Tasteless, the infestors are out. They do have the Passaging Gland upgrade, so they're ready to go. And roaches with those infestors should be what it takes to crack Hydras versus infestors. And you can see Jaedong actually being even more annoying. But this is actually nice. Not only does it delay that hatchery, but it actually gives the intel that he says, okay, he's doing it. He's moving out of his little spine forest.
And when you see him move out of his little spine forest there, he's also essentially declaring that, okay, I'm comfortable if you try to attack me. But at the same time, he got a good glimpse with that burrowed roach to the army there. Jaedong's in a great spot here. And we have problems.
Yeah, we had to actually take a pause.
Dun, dun, dun.
A lot of people on Twitter were reporting that if this game maintained this level of intensity, they would actually just die and have a heart attack, so we need to slow things down. Guys, it's only a game. Get up, shake out your limbs, do what Artosis does, eat some foliage, and then come back, and we'll continue the excitement.
Okay,
Artosis,
so
speaking of bushes, how you doing?
This is so crazy, this game. Like, we thought for sure that Jaedong was going to lose this. Like, he made all those lings. It looked like he might do something, did nothing. Snute gets way ahead. What is this comeback that we've seen? Like, Jaedong has engineered something that I never thought possible. He's, like, going into a base trade in ZVZ and then putting down how many spines of that base and then coming back and using, like, burrow move and just fantastic play.
This is a bit antithetical to what we would
it's a really good word.
Say. It's a great word. I mean, your SAT scores are going to go up watching the Dreamhack here. It's antithetical to what we know, but not anachronistic, to what we think of as a ZVZ. ZVZ is not a base trade matchup. It's not like TVT where we say, okay, the buildings can fly. There's a lot of interesting circumstances that can occur. Or let's say a DT situation, PvP, where, okay, you don't have detection. And all they have to do is eliminate your buildings, but there's ways to sandbag that problem. This was a pretty cool move. Because he just pulled a fast one on them. And you can do this in late game ZVZ when you look at it because you have so many drones. And instead of just making 15 more roaches, fine, 15 more spine crawlers or more. And if they're not attacking in the right location, and every base trade endgame scenario like that is a completely different beast. I mean, this is something you can only get good at by just playing a lot and getting in these situations a lot. So I really love what we're seeing here so far from Jaedong.
What a hell of a series, to be honest with you. Game 2, obviously very straightforward, kind of boring in that way. But game number 1, inspired by Snute. Game number 3, to be honest, I was already preparing myself for just Jaedong getting outplayed, and that's it. And we've been there before. Jaedong has been slotted to be the favorite against Stardust many Dreamhacks ago. And then Hyun lost both of those here against Snute. Snute, extremely good player, but a foreigner. Jaedong should win this. And Snute was manhandling, but he had one thing, as far as I can tell, and at the time I didn't see this, but if he had to win that base trade. And Snute, I felt like handled it really well for the most part, but getting his infestors caught in the middle of the map as well was one of those final tipping points where it said, okay, what advantage did Snute have? Roach, Hydra, Infestor, take out the Infestors. Now he's fighting a Spinecrawler forest with just a few Hydras. That's not the advantage he needs.
All right, we have the booth doors open right now, so we don't want to talk much more about what's
I feel
going
good, though,
on
because I think Snute was aware of that. Yeah.
All right. But
I lost the what?
It's like, I don't have any infestors.
he's going carriers, but he can't do that in this part of the game. This part of the game.
That's a late game
The
techie,
meta's
idiot.
not there yet in control. Anyways, when we get whatever this issue is resolved, we're going
Look,
to
I got to throw this out there,
Yeah,
because we are always talking about, and of course the Team Liquid teammates right there.
Whoa.
Bunny will be playing next. Going to be pretty awesome.
With Coach Dario.
Snute continues to beat Koreans, and he's already won a tournament. Here he is. Whether he beats Jaedong or loses to Jaedong,
We're proud of him.
well, he's shown that he's basically the same level
Yeah, that's a
in
good point.
Jaedong's probably best matchup. I mean, this.
It's at least the
We are
matchup Jaedong
getting
road to get here.
I mean, you know, with Nano and Stefano kind of going into retirement, it felt like the foreign or the European scene, as the Muslim would call it, drying up a little bit. Like we don't have the real contenders, but Snute is stepping right up to the plate and showing that he's
Absolutely.
actually Korean level.
No,
Yeah.
he absolutely
Coach
is.
Park was not screwing around when he said that this guy would be the best foreigner.
Well, and you can see it here on. It's such a high-pressure event, deep into the tournament. This is a technical endgame scenario, and they're already 1-1. I mean, this is a real treat to Cass, and his.
And Jaedong had to cheese him to get a win.
Yeah, he did, and here we are. And I don't want to call like this endgame scenario like cheesy, but I mean, this is really what fundamentally makes RTS games beautiful. Is these kind of scenarios. For me personally, I don't know if you guys agree, but for me, it's the endgame scenarios like this where I'm like, okay. Well, we've had a fast-paced economy game the whole time. Now it's a weird chess game.
I love chaotic games. Those are some of my absolute favorites. And for both these players, chaotic games are kind of where they're at home. Jaedong's very refined, very clean, but I remember a lot of games in the past where I saw Snute. I'm not going to try to be fancy. Look, I'm American. I mispronounce everything. Artosis is proof of this. Snute is extremely chaotic, very good at kind of the small decisions and the few units being microed very well. We saw that even this game. The huge lane strategy, I'm not a huge fan of it, but if they get into the main, as Tesa said earlier, it's a different game. They're trashing queens, they're getting drones, they're spreading Snute out, because it's not the DPS of Snute that was the defending characteristic there. It was that he was blocking entryways and not giving surface area. It was just magically well done.
We are going to be reloading the game from the replay, so we should be getting this back pretty soon. I'm sure we've saved a lot of nerds' faces from exploding from the awesomeness that might have not
just
been.
slow it down.
Really, you know, you can't take it all in at once. I mean, you can kill a man this way. So when we have that up and ready, we're going to go there. Are you guys having fun here in Bucharest? This is cool.
Great audience.
Yeah, this is really cool.
I hope you guys at home can look at that and be like, cool, esports. Yeah.
Yeah,
That's how we
esports is
feel.
real. We're finally here.
We got all these people that come in here to watch us play games.
Okay, so I'm still waiting for the replay to get called up here. But yeah, for now, this is going to be a tricky situation. It does appear that the booths are all shut and everything. So let's talk a little bit more.
You ask all the questions.
He touched me.
I want. It's not fair. I want to throw a few back at you.
Go ahead.
How are you doing? How do you feel?
I'm really good.
Awesome.
I'm really happy. Thanks.
Wow.
I could see why you ask all the questions.
I just got informed by the 2 more minutes before we go into this game.
Great. You got 2 minutes to tell me emotionally how you're doing.
Emotionally,
how's this
I'm
going
ecstatic, man. I mean, I'm here in Romania, meeting all these awesome people. These games kick ass. It's only the round of 8.
I feel like your passion is at an all-time high right now. Where would you measure your passion?
The passion right now is at a 10 right now on the passion.
Out of 10, I
scale.
assume, not 100. Yeah, that's a lot.
That's
good.
It'll go back down after the tournament's done with it. Right? It kind of fluctuates, all right? We got to get the Tasteless Passion weatherman in here to kind of figure out where exactly that's going to be. And
He's
that's
on
based
Reddit somewhere.
Yeah, that's based off a lot of internet butterfly flaps going on somewhere that could just cause a passion hurricane somewhere else in the world. So you really just don't know. The dong is strong. This is true. That person is a poet and they weren't even aware of it. Wow.
If you don't start this game soon, Nick will just start reading signs in the audience.
This is where the audience becomes my teleprompter. I'm like, help!
Oh, wow.
I don't know how to use these cue cards. I just drew a bunch of dicks on these things, and now we're still waiting for this game to start. Well, I'm really interested in seeing how much longer this game's actually going to go, because it did seem like we were getting into a pretty tough spot.
It's dire straits for Snute right now.
It's now up to Snute to pull the big comeback, I feel.
Yeah, but how do you do that? Because Jaedong is just playing this
apparently you counterattack, I guess.
But there's spine crawlers everywhere now. It's not going to work as well anymore.
You got to bring your spine crawlers too. I guess he almost did that.
He almost did.
That was cool.
The Muslim, buddy, your thoughts after seeing this ZVZ here and how things have developed. You now have a working mic, so. You're no longer like the Sir Ilian Payne nerd here that just simply stands here while the rest of people in the King's Court speak.
You just spoiled that he can't talk.
There's someone named Sir Ilian Payne.
You just spoiled that he can't talk. Spoiler alert. Also, Darth Vader is Luke Skywalker's dad.
No!
Moving on to the massive spoiler lineup here. What are your thoughts, though, on this CVZ that we just saw?
This CVZ has been crazy so far. Like, the first two games, they kind of went as they should. Like, the macro player, Snute, was winning. He got a lead early on. But this third game, I really thought Snute won.
Yes.
He was marching across the map with a superior army. Roach, Hydra with Infestors sprinkled in. Yes, he got a few Infestors caught. But then Jaedong killed the rocks, then ran past the natural straight for the third with his Roach army, kind of forcing a base trade situation. It was very smart movement by Jaedong. But also, then with all the spine crawlers coming up, that was his one chance of getting back into this game that I didn't think was possible, and he took it.
And at the fourth, if he spines up the main, he's in the same situation as Snute, but without the income, and he's on Roaches instead of Hydras. It's really interesting. He made all the right choices to get that keyhole potential victory.
And the tunneling claws into the Hydra army, too. That was so amazing. Like,
that was close.
Sick. Yeah.
You know what I really loved about that base trade and the spines of the fourth is all they did was buy him exactly enough time to do more damage to Snute than Snute did to him and get his army back. Yeah. That's like all it did, and that's what's making all the difference, because Snute had like the one hatchery in his main base left, whereas Jaedong had 3 hatches left. So, I mean, that is all the difference in the world.
This game's not over yet. Snute still has a chance, but I can't help but to say, I feel really bad if this win does get robbed away from Snute, because he had it. He had it. He was crushing Jaedong, and he gets robbed so far. But I'll tell you what's so good about StarCraft, like we've been talking about this whole time, what if Snute brought it back again? I mean, again, on paper, it looks like there's no chance, but he's a good enough player to do it.
And Hydralisk with fungal Roaches being out of range, like, they can do it, and he's got a lot of spine crawlers on the map. I really like how Jaedong killed those rocks earlier for the Ling run by, and now he's used that expansion as the game went.
Potential
game.
No spoilers.
Yes. Sorry.
Well, I don't
Jamie
think we have to
Lannister.
worry for too much longer. The replay's almost done recovering here, but it's been a real treat to see these guys duking it out like this. Because honestly, with you and me, Artosis, we spend so much time casting GSL. I do miss seeing the foreigners really put up a good fight against Koreans.
It's been a while since we've had one over there kicking ass, so it's quite nice.
We sent Scarlet, I believe.
Yeah, she's over there right now. So
who is North American, by the way.
Well,
yeah, and that's why she's such a great caster. Thank you, Incontrola. All right, well, this is still taking a
Best of luck to her,
There is one more thing about that run by. I know that we keep on kind of jumping around and going back to it, but like there were so many interesting and intelligent parts to it that there's one other piece I do have to mention is when he sent the initial Roach counterattack, he skipped going into the main, and me and the Muslim were like, what? He's going to the third. There's like spines there and stuff. But by going to the third, that's like how he got the extra damage to actually kill the base.
It was the mining base,
He planned the entire thing out. It was...
Yeah. Well, it's funny because we were talking so much about Incontrol and I, when we were casting it, like, what is going on here? And we were, speculating, well, I mean, maybe he's trying to do this and get him in to where his, army is lopsided.
You ever get that weird feeling we're pawns in Jaedong's game? Like, this is all he sees it. He sees it.
No,
all.
I don't really get that feeling.
Neither do I. It'd be epic if we did, though. That'd be kind of cool.
No, that'd be kind of paranoid and weird to me, right? So no, I don't really think that at all.
Thank you, Artosis.
No problem.
We are just waiting for the replay to recover here. It's going at a record slow speed on this PC, at a comically low speed at this
Gives us
point
more
in
time to talk and
It's
for
good.
Artosis to shoot down my ideas. Super hard.
He tried. Well, you know, Jaedong here, he's been tearing through here with ZVZ and doing just such a fantastic job at that matchup to the point where we can see he's so good at it, he's showing us a new way to play that matchup. From here on out, I mean, if Snute, because Snute's playing like a badass so far, is anybody going to play as well as Snute and take him out? What do you think?
Yes, I think Jaedong will.
Excuse me, that's Snute. Jaedong, no, Snute. I was testing you and you've done
Hey,
very well.
Impact
All right.
has been playing super hot.
The next
if
test
Jaedong
is
gets
coming,
past
don't worry.
this, if Jaedong gets past this, he's got a tough opponent. There we go.
Oh, the game's in! Let's go crazy! All right, so back to where we were now that we can really talk about this game and not worry too much about the booths being open here. He's moving out now with these infestors over here in the south, trying to reclaim this location. The spine crawlers are going to be headed over here as well. Jaedong has had an expansion up in the center left that's been up and running for quite a while now.
Yeah, he's been up basically 1.5 mining bases. That original third that he took is at half mass. If you, that's just a weird way to describe it. It doesn't have a lot of minerals left, and he's not mining the gas over there. But Snute's moving down. In doing so, he's kind of exposing himself. You'll notice he left some spine crawlers back at that natural. Oh.
All right, what's he got in
He's
store
going to shove
for
forward.
us
He's
here?
going to be aggressive. He wants to challenge this this third base attempt, perhaps.
Talk about a real break in emotional tempo there for these two guys. You know, it's such a big climax, and now they got to get back into this game. So it looks like the Roaches are now burrowed and moving forward over here in the center right. And the question is Snute going to be prepared or caught off guard by this movement right here?
He's going to see it at the very last second. He's got an overseer there, so he will see it, but the creep's not going to give him the go-ahead. And Jaedong, again, pushes forward, sees that there is an overseer there, sees that the army is within striking distance. And I don't know, well, as I say that, he's still making his way over here. Jaedong seems to like this idea. He's going to do it.
Okay, he's coming up.
He's
in a good spot. But a nice fungal there in the back of making most of those Roaches unable to attack.
Gosh.
And he might be able to keep chain fungling this from here. There is another infestor with energy. It's a little bit far back, and those Roaches do manage to escape out. But taking out the hatchery before making their exit.
Jaedong was giving him as much surface area for those fungals as is possible. It was a disastrous situation. He's going to make good on it by picking off the hatchery. And then he actually did escape before the chains just kept him in that spot. But Snute was moments away from gloriousness. Now, what we do have going for Jaedong is behind this, he's got fully charged infestors out there.
Yes, and a lot of them at that. He's all grouped up over here a little bit to the left of the center. Burrowed Roaches now coming up here.
If those three infestors find the grouped up infestors, oh no, he's going to go after the third. Okay, but man, Jaedong's going to be careful.
Yeah, that could still be incredibly effective as well here. Now he's got to be careful with those Hydras. The Roaches are now coming up. Every unit so important right now as both these guys are really economically crippled. The infested Terrans are hatching, and that expansion will be no more. Meanwhile, Jaedong trying to close in here from multiple sides outside of Snute's base.
And Jaedong is going to lose that third in the hardest of ways, but he's going to look to return fire, taking out the potential fourth of Snute, and now pressing in on the only mining base for all intents and purposes of Snute. Snute lost a lot of Hydros there. There goes the infested Terrans. And Snute's trying to chain some fungals to slow him down, but the infested Terrans are going down without impunity. And they are going to gun down this mining base, and Jaedong takes a big win there.
All right.
He might actually just...
Yeah, he might just swallow him up whole here. Continuing to come forward now, chucking out a few more infested Terrans.
Holy
and
cow.
that does it. Snute KOs.
I cannot believe what I just saw, Jaedong. Tasteless. It was... The comeback is complete. That's what I'm talking about. The end game of this makes sense. Jaedong had a huge advantage. Yes, he loses the third behind that. He closes down the fourth. Snute's trying to do too much. His infestors are out in the middle of the map. His Hydras get called out because they're not as fast as the Roaches. And Jaedong seals the deal. But to come back from where he was at, just being on Roaches versus Roach Hydra Infestor with same upgrades and more mining bases, That was an incredible comeback.
I really want to see a lot more of Snute in the future. This guy is a badass. He looks fantastic.
Well, you're not going to have any choice because this guy does not lose very easily. It took Jaedong with the most impressive comeback that I've seen in a very long time in StarCraft 2 to take him out here.
Yeah.
Well, it looks like it's time to go to our interview now and see what Jaedong's feelings are after that epic match that he managed to win.
Thank you very much, Tasteless. It seems Jaedong has proven that his JVZ still prevails. Give it up for Jaedong! Now, I'll keep this interview quite short as we are behind schedule with all the technical difficulties, but I do want to mention Jaedong. In the State of Play documentary, Impact actually mentioned that he respects you a lot and looks up to you a lot as a Zerg player. But he also said in the documentary that if anyone can beat you, it's him. What do you have to say to Impact about that? 그 스테이트 오브 플레이 다큐에서 그 임팩트 선수가 이재동 선수를 엄청 존경하고 좋아하는 선수라고 했는데 근데 이재동 선수를 이기는 선수가 있다면 나다 이렇게 얘기했거든요. 네, 그래서 그거에 대해서 좀 얘기해 주세요.
뭐 굉장히 좀 공교롭게도 그 같은 다큐멘터리에 나왔던 선수와 이렇게 큰 무대에서 붙게 됐는데 그냥 되게 뜻깊은 경기가 될 거라고 생각하고요. 뭐 승자가 누가 됐든 멋진 경기 했으면 좋겠습니다.
So Jaedong says it's fortunate enough that the two players, me and Impact, that were in the State of Play documentary, will be on such a big stage like this in the semifinals. So I think no matter who wins, it'll be a match with a lot of meaning behind it. So I guess regardless of what happens, I hope we can show really, really great games. Congratulations, Jaedong, on your advancement. Guys, we'll cut to a quick commercial break, but when we get back, we'll have Innovation versus Bunny.